District 3, this is the District 3 charter mandated meeting. Welcome. Thank you all for coming out on the cold, windy night. We had this plan at another church, and we had to move location, so it cut down on the crowd a little bit, but I'm glad that you got the information is here. I'm going to introduce our Reverend for the night, Reverend Country Preacher, Reverend Jimmy. Reverend Forsyth was out of town and could not be here tonight.
Thank you, Ernie. Let me just say, first of all, welcome to each and every one of you tonight to the Pleasant Grove Missionary Baptist Church, where our under shepherd is Dr. Reverend Louis Forsyth II. We're so glad that you come, and we are going to do our best to give you the best hospitality we can give you. And let me turn to the mayor now, because Pastor asked me to personally tell you he apologized that he wouldn't even make it tonight, but you will understand he was in Dubai. So, amen. So we may all want to be in Dubai right about now. Amen. God bless you. And so we're into the house of the Lord here tonight, okay? And because of that, I just want to remind us where we are. And I ask each of every one of us to respect this house of the Lord, amen. I know this is a charter meeting. I understand we have ideas, we have suggestions, we have things that we want to say. But let's do them all respectfully. Let's do them all respectfully to one another, amen. And then we all can be able to get along. We might not always agree, but we can be respectful to one another, and do be respectful to the house of the Lord. Before I turn it to the mayor, I'm going to ask that if you would, let's just say a word of prayer, because I believe in the power of prayer. I want to pray for this city, this community. I want to pray for this mayor, and I want to pray for each and every one of you tonight as we come together. Amen. Let's do this. God our Father, we lift you up right now because you are God that looks over all of us. Not do only you look over us, but you care for us and you love us enough to keep giving us life and extension. So tonight, we ask as we gather in this charter meeting, oh God, that you would allow us to be respectful to one another and to each other, oh God. We actually lift up this mayor, actually lift up this city, and lift up this community, oh God, and say, oh God, to us right now tonight, that all is well, because you are in control. This is our prayer for tonight, and we pray, God, that you would bless us and keep us. Amen. One other thing I want to say to you now, as being respectful. I've been to these charter meetings before. I'm not just a rookie. I know sometimes we get into areas that we ought not to go. Now, if you're out of order, the mayor team will ask you to leave, because we're going to do everything tonight decently and in order. Mayor Duggan.
All right. So have a hand for Reverend Jimmy. And thank you to my friend Reverend Forsyth, who's in a warmer place. And thank you for coming out tonight. As I talked and greeted most of you coming in, I said, how are things going in District 3? And most of you said something along the lines of, it could be better. You got work to do. And we do. We have the area of the city that has historically had the highest unemployment and poverty numbers that we've had in the city of Detroit, which means we have to do twice as much. And I want to show you tonight my ideas, and I want to hear tonight your ideas on what we're doing well, but what we could do better. Before we do, though, I want you to introduce your elected police commissioner, Shirley Birch. All right. All right, and the other people that you should know. So your district manager, Ernest Johnson, and the assistant manager, Kiana Sessons. How many have met them already? Okay, doing all right? You have an inspector. So if there are issues, code issues, there's a dedicated inspector to District 3, Mr. Brinkley, and if you go to the city website, you can find his cell phone number, you can call him. If that business is not cleaning up, or that neighbor's got 2 cars parked on the front lawn, he will come out and deal with it. If you run a business, Mahit will be there to help you through that. And we have 5 different precincts touching District 3. I think that's a record. but your neighborhood police officers who are engaged with your community groups, with your block clubs for issues that you wouldn't call 911 for, but very much disrupt your quality of life. So I want to start today by celebrating what's good about Detroit, because we got our share of challenges. And how about the Detroit Youth Choir? Did they give us a source of pride, the kind of talent that our young folks have? Somebody else, a young woman named Sharice Woods, freshman at Cass Tech. That was her when she was 8 years old beating me at chess. She just came back from the World Chess Championships in India. She's on her way to being the first African-American female international chess master. Out of the city of Detroit, out of Detroit public schools. The question is, are we going to make sure that all of our children are valued the same way? Because there is enormous talent, but what our children experience shapes their feeling, and this is really what I want to talk about today. Because we got a conversation about the bond issue, and people are going to feel a couple of different ways about it, and at the end of the day, it's going to be your decision, because this is a voter's decision. If it's something you want, I'm going to support it. If it's something you don't want, I'm not going to push it, but let me tell you why I have been pushing it. I believe that the children at a young age know how much their community values them. They get signals in a lot of different ways. And when I was running, you remember what the city parks looked like. They were closed all year. You had places where somebody cut a strip of grass from the entrance of the park to the swing set, and our children walked through with grass up to their shoulders. It said something. And so we set out to say, all right, we want to have a city where every child in the city can walk or bike to a first-class park in 10 minutes. Now, that seemed like a far-fetched idea in 2013. We got a ways to go, but we have already rebuilt 53 parks. We're upgrading 60 more in the next 5 years, and I want to show you what you're doing, because you may have seen it. Jane Park, we know what a jewel that was at one time, longtime Detroiters, and how it got run down. We've just added playscapes and picnic areas, and this spring we'll have a splash pad and soccer fields for our children, making that park used by the neighborhoods. Maruso Park now looks like that. And Luce Park, these are all in District 3, now looks like that. And Syracuse Park, all those rusted fences you used to see, we're replacing them with rocks to open up the park to the neighborhood. Not like you have to fence it off away from the folks who live there. We've improved Butler Park and Farwell Park. And we got 6 more park improvements coming in 2020. I'm a believer that every one of these sends a message, even the small parks in the neighborhood, to how we value our families. Now, we've all lived through this, right? Since the 1980s? City closed more than 20 rec centers. Anybody remember when Lipke was abandoned? Yeah. All right. Lipke now reopened as a rec center, and in the lower level, a computer lab with the help of the Pistons, the Lions, Mitch Albom, Say Detroit. That's open, and they bus the children after school. They do homework downstairs in the computer lab and then go up and can play in the gym. That neighborhood at 7 and Van Dyke is starting to change, right, with that park. And so today, we've got 4 community and rec centers, Farwell, Lasky, Lipke, and Heilman in District 3. That's not enough. Okay, and so now we got to figure out how to do it. But if you build a rec center, it costs a huge amount of money to build it, to heat it, to run it for all year long. But here's what I know. There's a lot of churches in the city that have open gymnasium and community space. And when you go there, the pastor or the youth ministry is there. We said, what if we partnered with our ministers, and next summer, the children can go up to their local church? And so we started a program, which we've just gone out for, and we said, here's what we'll do. We will pay, the city will pay, to hire the play leaders. You can go from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. from June to August for 20 to 60 kids. And we'll put $20,000 toward fixing up your church or your equipment. And in the next week, we'll be making awards, but I'm expecting 3 new rec sites just in District 3 at these churches. So we're going to keep going one step at a time to change the quality of life. Now, how many kids I talked to who felt like, I don't have the money to go to college, it's not available for me, it's available to other people. We got to level that playing field. We got a whole lot of really smart kids. But it's tough. You get 12, 13, 14 years old. Am I really going to go to college? And so we started the Detroit Promise, and it guarantees that if you get accepted to a community college, 2 years of tuition is paid for, and if you get a 3.0 and a 20 on your ACT, 4 years at a public university is paid for at 12 universities in the state of Michigan. 1,400 Detroiters today, right now, are going to college on the Detroit Promise. And a little bit of your property taxes every year goes into the scholarship fund. So that if you have somebody in your life who's 12 or 14 or 15 years old, you can tell them, because you live in the city of Detroit, if you go to high school in the city of Detroit, your college will be paid for. This is the kind of environment we've got to create. Our career technical centers, when the emergency manager took over the school system, were basically shut down. We've raised tens of millions of dollars, and now at Bright Hawk, at Go Lightly, at Randolph, and very shortly at Southeastern, we have carpentry and culinary arts and plumbing and auto mechanics in a number of those programs, so those who don't want to go to college, want to make a good living, have a choice. And in the summer, 8,000 young people go to work and grow Detroit's young talent. So they learn at the age of 14 or 15 or 16 what it's like to go to a job, to get a paycheck, to dress at work, get started so that your first time isn't when you get out of school, you're not interviewing for the first time. Here's what we need to talk about. We have too many of our children who grow up in a neighborhood like this. And I've been very, very focused for 6 years on getting rid of it. Some people think I've been too focused on getting rid of it. We can have that conversation today. But here's what happened. You were here, right? From 2000 to 2013, 260,000 people moved out of Detroit. It's just astonishing. We know they went to Southfield and Oak Park and Melvindale and Farmington and Warren. We watched them move. And what did they leave behind? But 40,000 abandoned houses. When they left, they didn't take their houses with them, right? They left them behind. And so the number was almost staggering. And so the first thing I did was go to Washington, D.C. and say, Detroit's in bankruptcy. We don't have the resources to begin to deal with this. And fortunately, we had President Obama in the White House. And he was enormously supportive. And then Debbie Stabenow took up the cause. We went to Congress, and in December of 2015, we had a coalition that extended from Paul Ryan to Jesse Jackson and Maxine Waters. And in December 2015, we got money passed, of which Detroit got more than anybody in the country, to get rid of the blight, $265 million. Now, I knew that was only going to get half the job done, but it seemed like a start for a bankrupt city. We are finishing up that money. And the guy that's in the White House now, he won't take my phone call. Okay? So there's nobody from D.C. coming to help us. So let me show you what we've done and what I think we have to do. The problem we had with the federal money is when the Fed sends you money, it comes with strings, right? And the Fed said, we will only let you spend demolition money in zones that we approve. And we want you to do it in the most densely populated neighborhoods. And so when I came in, this was the first set of zones the Feds approved. Grandmont Rosedale and the North End, Jefferson Chalmers. Anybody in District 3 see a problem with these zones? Right? No demolition money at all in District 3. They call these hardest hit funds, but they were actually being used in the nicest neighborhoods in the city. It wasn't right. And so we started to get through that. I went back and I asked for more money, and they expanded, and we got the Osborne and Campo area. And I went in and pitched again for more funds, and ultimately, I got them to put up with the $265 million, all of those zones. But if you didn't live in one of those zones, unless it was an emergency, you didn't see demolition. And so what we've seen in this city is the neighborhoods that are 70% or more occupied have improved dramatically. Property values have gone up. They've gotten a lot better. The neighborhoods that have got half the houses empty, 2/3 of the houses empty, they've fallen behind. And we got a question. Are we one Detroit or are we not? And so the federal money has gone. Do we as a city have an obligation to the children in these other neighborhoods, the poorer neighborhoods that we haven't gotten to? Do we have an obligation for them to be blight-free or not? That's the debate we're going to have as a community. So these are the 20,000 houses that we've taken down. And what I'm more proud of, when you take down a burned-out house, we got a lot of solid houses in this city that people walked away from. If you take out the burned-out ones, you can get somebody to move into the one next door. And so on our website, buildingdetroit.org, we auction 3 every day. We really are selling now closer to 200 a month. We have now sold or rehabbed 9,000 houses. 9,000 houses that were empty 6 years ago have a family in or rehabbing to move in right now. And we aren't going to get anywhere if we don't get people in these houses, right? So we've got to do both things together. Demolish the ones that can't be saved. And so this is the part. I got maps in my car. I drive around the city. But here's my experience. So there's where the Monica house looked 5 years ago. Here's that same house today. This one on Rosa Parks has to be demolished. Can't be saved, right? Here's how it looks today, right? A lot of these can be saved. This house on Atkinson, somebody walked away from, looks like this today. This house on Collingwood, sure demolition, right? Here's how it looks today. 9,000 times we've gone in and taken a house and fixed it up and moved somebody in because we got rid of the burned out ones that couldn't be saved. I think we can do that in a lot more of the city. And then what do you do with the lots, right? We got all these bad houses. What are we going to do? Just let the lots sit there? So we set up a program, a side lot program. For $100, you can buy the lots next door. You can come in, write the $100 check, leave with your deed. I love these side lot fairs. 13,000 people have bought the side lot next to their house. The people who stayed when their neighbor left, they get a bigger yard. And so they've done things like put in gardens, made nice little parks that are shared by the community. We try to move the property back into the hands of the neighbors who still want to develop it. And so I've had people say to me, all you're doing is knocking stuff down. There's no real benefit to that. Here's an interesting thing. Since we've knocked down those houses, the number of building fires every week has gone from almost 100 to about 50. Now, you got some pretty brave people from the fire department here. They have been risking their lives going into fires in abandoned buildings, right? And so, just because it looks dilapidated, you can't assume a squatter's not in there, right? And so we had 4 firefighters in southwest Detroit injured 2 weeks ago in an abandoned house. And so what we've done, though, is we've cut those in half. So what does it mean? It means we've been able to cancel the Angels Night patrols, right? Instead of Angels Nights and our children growing up, seeing all those flashing lights, being afraid my house is going to burn down. That's the memory of their childhood. I talked to 20 and 25-year-old Detroit kids. The memory of their childhood on Halloween is flashing yellow lights and is my house going to burn? Now for the last 2 years, we've got Halloween in the D, and the fire stations and the police precincts are where you go to get candy. All right? And this is what I believe we should be trying to build. We are not going to get ahead of this blight problem if we don't deal with the foreclosures. Because it doesn't do any good to knock down one burned out house if somebody's leaving the one next door because they've been foreclosed on, right? If we don't stop the foreclosures, we will not gain on this problem. And so, in 2015, the Wayne County Treasurer foreclosed on 9,000 occupied houses in Detroit. 9,000 families were put out. It was totally unacceptable and it was unfair. And so we went to work. The first thing is that when I came in, the emergency manager was sticking the water bills on your tax bills, and people were being foreclosed on for not paying their water bill. We stopped that. I stopped that by first order, first time in. We are not foreclosing on anybody because of a water bill. You're not going to lose your house. Second, a whole lot of folks in this town went out and knocked on doors, and when they stick those yellow signs up saying this house is being foreclosed, our volunteers from UCHC and the city and most of the community groups knock on the door and say, there's help. And we go talk to people one-on-one. And I went to Lansing in 2015 and passed a bill that said, if you have an arrearage, You can have a payment plan. So over 5 years, they don't have to kick you out. We had 15,000 people sign up the first year. All right? Then we had programs like this where we let people who were in a land bank house. You got a lot of folks where they were renters, they paid the rent every month, but the landlord didn't pay the taxes. House got foreclosed on. Wasn't the renter's fault. And so we set up a program where the renters could buy the house and stay in the house, what we call the buyback program. And now we're keeping those houses occupied. So, how has this worked? I'm a big believer in numbers. 9,111 occupied houses foreclosed on in 2015. The first year our bill kicked in, we were down to 5,000. And then with our programs, 1,900, 800, and this year, 514. We have cut it by 94%. That's what it looks like, but it's not enough. 500 of our neighbors being pushed out a year is still too many. And so with the help of County Executive Warren Evans and Representative Wendell Byrd, we've got a new bill that's moving right now in Lansing that allows you to pay as you stay. So we got a lot of people who are in those payment plans, but the penalties and the like are still too high for them. With this new plan, it's going to cut their pay, their back pay, from something like $120 a month down to about $25 a month, so that they don't have to be worrying about their financial security. We got to keep folks in their homes. But even with all that, with all that we did, we got 18,000 left. And you notice the section on District 3? District 3 has got more blight, more than 4,000 houses in this district, the number one district in the city, that has the most houses still to go. And this is the question we have as a community. There are other districts that are wealthy or don't have very much. I'm proposing as a community we take on the responsibility that everybody's responsible for everybody in Detroit, and that every house in District 3 that can't be saved comes down, because these neighborhoods matter as much as every other one. Now, there are people that disagree with me. We got a very vigorous debate, and I'm sure we'll hear some tonight, but that's what I'm thinking. And so in September, we kicked off the announcement that we thought we could do this. We came to District 3, to Queen and Hazel Ridge, and this is like so many. You look down Hazel Ridge, this is a great neighborhood, right? It looks great. Turn your head, and this is the next block over. If we do not stop this blight, it's going to spread to the good blocks. We have to get in here and help if we're going to preserve the quality of life for the others. And so, here's the truth. Nobody from Washington's coming to help us anymore. There is one possible way to do this if we are committed to finishing the job, and that's a city bond issue. Now, 4 years ago, that would have been crazy. Wall Street would have said, City of Detroit, nobody's going to loan you any money. We've had 3 credit rating upgrades, and we can do this because we've gotten ahead of our payments. You won't pay any more in taxes than you do today. And here's how that works. Over time, the debt we have would have gone down. If we just keep the same mills that we have today, you're paying the same amount you have today, we'll be able to borrow enough money. So if anybody here has ever refinanced their mortgage to improve their house, and you had the same payment amount, but you added more years on the end, that's what this is doing. So we could wait and do a little bit of demo every year for the next 20 or 30 years. Or we can say we have an obligation to our fellow citizens who are raising their children or grandchildren today to remove that blight today and not wait 20 or 25 years. It's a major decision, but that's what I believe. Then the question is, who's going to do the work? Again, I told you, the Fed sends you the money, they have strings. You know what the federal string is? That when you use federal money, you can't give any local preference. The feds say it's everybody's money in the country. You can't give Detroiters preference. The $265 million in bonds, by federal law, we couldn't give our own contractors any preference. And so here's what happened. When you look at what percentage of the demolition work went to Detroit businesses, with the federal money, it was 37%. With the demolitions we did do from Detroit, where we could use the Detroit preferences, 54% of the work went to our own businesses, largely smaller minority-owned companies. And on the minority side, 37% of the federal money went to minority-owned companies, 50% of the city money. Here's what's going to happen. This bond issue is going to be all city money, which means not only can we take care of every neighborhood in the city that's been forgotten, we can have Detroiters removing the blight because the federal restrictions are off. That's what I'm shooting for. So, this is it, and we have 8,000 more houses that can still be saved and rehabbed. We've sealed them up, we know where they are, but we're not just going to knock houses down. I want to move another 8,000 families into the ones that can be saved. All right? So, here's what we got. 29,000 houses are gone, 20,000 demolished, 9,000 renovated. But again, the map. The white areas have gotten very little help. And what this bond issue will do will get to all of those areas that up until now have been forgotten. And so we're going to have a conversation about this, and we'll see. I don't know whether the city council is going to put this on the ballot or not. Here's the thing about the bond issue. It's your money. You're committing to pay it back. You as the voters get to decide. My thought is, it ought to be on the ballot so you can make a decision about your own money. And so I hope it'll get placed on the ballot and you'll get a chance to make that decision. Okay, jobs for District 3. This is the I-94 Industrial Park at Van Dyke. It's the way it looked 6 years ago. Not a whole lot going on there. And then we landed Link Logistics and they added 150 jobs. And then next door, the people who make the frames for Volkswagen, ArcelorMittal, came in and added another 125 jobs. And then Flexingate, you can see it from Van Dyke, that huge building. They make the parts for the Ford Broncos that are made out in Wayne. They could have gone anywhere. We landed them on the east side. Councilman Scott Benson led a community effort. And the neighbors got first hire at the jobs. They supported it. And when they posted those 500 jobs, 16,000 people applied. Anybody who had an assumption that Detroiters don't want to work, once those 16,000 people showed up, that was gone. And the owner of Flexingate, a guy by the name of Shad Khan, who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars football team, he started calling every other parts and auto manufacturer in the country saying, you got to go to Detroit. The folks there want to work. I got great workers. And so in less than 5 years, that's that park 5 years ago, here's how it looks today. It is right now the hottest industrial park, really anywhere in the state of Michigan, and it's in District 3.
All right.
All right? So, we realized when that happened, okay, we got to make sure Detroiters are getting these jobs. And so we started Detroit at Work. Have you seen the billboards and the ads for Detroit at Work? Right? So we're making sure that if I bring a bunch of companies in here and a bunch of suburbanites drive in and work their jobs, we haven't accomplished anything. The only point in doing this is to make sure Detroiters can get these jobs. And so Detroit at Work set up training for everything that was hiring. And so we got 3 hospitals that say they're going to hire 240 nurse assistants. And all Detroiters that are hired and going into hospitals in Detroit. We said, okay, this training program can work. And then we went after what seemed like the longest shot at all. FCA was going to build a 5,000 employee plant to build the Grand Cherokee. And in the last 10 years, every new auto assembly plant in America has been built in the South on farmland. And I went in and said, I think I could close St. Jean, and I think I can buy from a bunch of people who are basically speculators who are going to be hard to negotiate with. But when Mayor Coleman Young acquired the land for the Jefferson North plant and for the Poletown plant, he had power of condemnation. He could take the property from a private citizen and pay them a fair amount. The Michigan Supreme Court reversed that. We can't make anybody sell. And so when I went to FCA and said, hey, I think we can buy these 200 acres in 60 days when we don't have any ability to force anybody, they were a little skeptical. But they were doing so well with the Grand Cherokees they were making on Jefferson, which were making them huge profits. They had such confidence in the Detroit workforce. They said, we'll give you the 60 days. And we went and landed it. And they're building that plant now. But I basically gave them everything I want. People criticize me for the tax breaks and the like, and that's all true. I said, I want one commitment from you. I want Detroiters to have first shot at the job. And the head of FCA said to me, how did that work? I said, I'll tell you how it works. I'd like Detroit at Work to pre-screen your employees. And when you go to hire, I want you to interview everybody from our list first before you talk to anybody from the suburbs. And he said, that's fair. And they signed a binding contract, not just when we started, but for as long as that plan is operating. So we set up all these career centers. Somewhere Nicole Sherrard Freeman is here. Where's Nicole? Nicole, stand up. Nicole held 200 sessions in 90 days to recruit Detroiters. And it was amazing. And a lot of the folks here, they're not the folks who come to these community meetings. Got a lot of young people who I had a chance to talk to who feel like government forgot about them, business forgot about them, felt like they were disconnected. The idea that they could get first shot at a job that could pay $60,000. We said, it's not easy. You're going to be on your feet all day. You need a high school degree. You're going to have to pass a math and reasoning test. Now, I got to tell you, there were some folks there who were a little nervous. They may not have done all that well at math years ago when they were in school, but a long time since they took a math test. And we said, it's okay. We're going to do a sample test for you right here tonight, and we're going to score with you to see how you're doing. And if your score isn't high enough, we've got churches across the city where we're going to pay for tutoring nights and weekends. So before you ever get near FCA, we will give you the kind of support you need. And people poured into our tutoring sessions by the hundreds. And so FCA is today hiring its first 2,000 people. That plant is being built really fast. It's going to open in a year. And we just sent them the first list. 3,500 people passed the math test, all the qualifications, and are heading for interviews. Anybody who thinks Detroiters cannot do these jobs is wrong. And so this is what we're going to do. And now another group called Dakota that's going to make the dashboards for the Grand Cherokees, they're going into the old Kettering site. 500 jobs? You know what they've agreed to? Interview our Detroiters first. And we're sending them several hundred names of Detroiters as well. So this part of town is now becoming a place where jobs are coming as opposed to jobs are fleeing. And so that's the reason that I'm pushing the things that I am. And that's the reason why I hope you get a chance to vote on this bond issue. And with that, let's take questions. So we have microphones where? One on this side, one on this side. If you tell me your name and where you live, and let's talk about whatever is on your mind. Okay, where is it going? Right there. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Peak, and I live in District 3. And when I say to you I have some very serious issues in regards to my neighborhood, for the last 6-7 years, I've been trying to bring stabilization, revitalization to a 9-block area where I live. I live right in walking distance of FCA, Tool and Die. Okay. And one of the comments that I really want to make is the shame. With all the automotive companies that are in our geographic area, our community should not look the way it looks. And we need to bring them to the table. They've been given government money. We need to bring them to the table to help revitalize our area. I've made numerous complaints about the Detroit Land Bank. Last year, I wrote Judge Colombo in regards to issues as it relates to Detroit Land Bank. The gentleman that was featured on the news last week, the landlord kingpin, he owns real estate in my geographic area. When I say to you, the things in terms of the effect that predatory lending has had on District 3. I live in a community, I've got squatters, I've got problems with Detroit Land Bank because I've gone to their board meetings and I've continuously complained. Now I'm being victimized, and what they're actually doing is just selling properties to anyone who cannot afford to rehab the properties. I've got so many squatters, but what I'd like to leave with you this evening is information, the letter that I wrote Judge Colombo and other information. Previously, I sat down and myself and another person for my community, we met with, she's in your office, she's on the news, Alexis Wiley. I've gotten no assistance. I am here tonight because I need some assistance, and I want to give this information to you personally. The letter that I wrote Judge Colombo, my phone number, my email address is here, and as of right now, I just want you to know, I am that same person who you invited to an event because I vote in every election. I don't miss election, and I discuss elections. I am that same person who ran and chased you down when we tried to save Lipke, and at the end of the day, we saved Lipke.
You sure did.
I really want some help. And so I'm gonna leave this information with you, but I'm fed up. I'm just really fed up, and I cannot imagine what I see with the Detroit Land Bank. You know, they vet in areas where there's a high population of people who don't look like me. They vet in those geographic areas. They don't sell property to anyone. But in areas where people look like me, they'll sell to anyone. They'll allow the squatters to live in these properties. Something has got to be done. When I say to you, I'm just fed up and don't know what to do.
So let's start. I feel I'm your mayor, whether you're happy with me or not, and I need to deal with the issues you're raising. So let me start with the first thing. You remember the Lipke, the first time you approached me, I didn't think Lipke was salvageable. Your community was very strong, and it caused us to go explore a whole bunch of different options until ultimately I got the investors to come in. You had a major effect as community organizers. If it's all right with you, I'd like to come out to your house or your neighborhood and go down the street with you, and I want to see where you believe the land bank has not followed up on houses it sold, where it's allowing squatters to work, because this is not acceptable. But I need to understand the specifics. Now, as far as they'll sell them to anybody, basically whoever wins on the auction wins. The computer, just goes with the high dollar amount. So they're not saying so-and-so goes to this area and so-and-so goes to that area. But if there are problems with it, the way I learn is to come out and see. And if you'd be willing to do that, I'll come out in the next 2 weeks with you, and we'll go down the street together.
Can we first of all sit at a table and have a meeting?
Absolutely.
That's the first step
Absolutely.
in this matters.
Okay.
There's information for fear of reprisal. There's information that I want to sit at a table and I want to show you. I want to prove to you the impact. I have been trying to bring stabilization to this area, and I want to show you the challenges that I faced and the amount of money that I've wasted. And no matter what I do, when you've got when the Detroit Land Bank and squatters, and everyone has a different opinion of squatters. In the neighborhood, maybe if you're in a geographic area, you may want the squatters to watch your property. In my geographic area, well, I don't get the greatest of squatters. I get squatters that atypical most people in this church would not want to have as neighbors.
So we have a commitment. I don't know if Commander Beddison is here, so I'm going to talk in a second. Commander Beddison's job, he has an entire squatter dashboard. And the neighborhood police officers, if there's a squatter illegally on the property, the neighborhood police officers are supposed to remove that squatter, and Commander Beddison sends me a monthly report on how he's doing. Commander, talk about what should be happening relative to squatters.
Absolutely. So what we do is we'll get the complaint. You can go on Improve Detroit, C-Click Fix Improve Detroit, and enter a complaint, but I also have Sergeant Hall. So anybody who has a squatter complaint, my sergeant is here, and he'll take that. And what we do is we'll actually go out to the property, find out who is actually there, and determine whether or not, looking at their paperwork, and vet to make sure that they are an actual squatter. If they are an actual squatter, I got a lieutenant that's committed to it that works very closely with Doug Baker in the law department, and in appropriate cases, we arrest. We get them out that property, and we've been very, very successful with that. Oftentimes, sometimes they're not squatters, but regardless, we work it out. So I'm committed to coming out along with Sergeant Hall, and we will get to the bottom of it. And for anybody else in the room as well who has a squatter complaint, I'll be here till the end of the meeting, and we'll resolve it.
And one of the things I want to tell you that the City of Detroit does very well. When I say to you the Department of Public Works and GFL, in terms of picking up our trash, the director of DPW working with GFL, they do a wonderful job.
So, Ms. Peak, I want to I'll sit at a table with you, whether you want it to be somewhere out in your neighborhood or downtown. Okay, so we'll set it up downtown. So, Commander, would you follow up on the contact? And would you rather start with me or me and the Commander together, or what would you like to do? Okay, so by next week, you and I are going to sit down together in my office, all right? Okay, and the next time in one of these meetings, I hope you stand up and say you actually listen to me, but I'm going to try, all right? Thank you. All right, who's up? Yes.
Yes. Mr. Mayor,
What's your name and where do you live?
D'Amico Williams. I'm the Chief Director of Hydrate Detroit. We're a 501c3 water rights organization in the city of Detroit that delivers emergency water and restores water for people with their water shut off. We've had over 100 people this year restore their water and pay their bills off in full due to the grassroots community and
That's
to the
terrific.
greater community. First of all, I want to ask you a question. Mayor Lori Lightfoot from the city of Chicago declared the end on water shutoffs in her city. Flint Mayor Sheldon Neely, the newly installed mayor, just declared a moratorium on water shutoffs. You, Mr. Mayor, what are you going to do to end water shutoffs? As you know, they are dangerous. It's cold out here. People have been trying to get back on the right track. There has been no public remedy to get people water bills back on track into zero out. There's been no water amnesty, for which Hydrate Detroit has been proposing that we wanted the arrears to be erased so that we could pay down a final price to get all our bills back at zero again. Mr. Mayor, this is a very serious situation. We have hepatitis A outbreak. We also have people that have been financially displaced, ruined, and also pushed out of the city of Detroit. Now, I would like to know from you, are you going to declare an end to water shutoffs?
And so there are times when I'm going to give you an answer you like and times that you don't. I'm going to come back in my next life as a politician who tells everybody what they want to hear. Here's what I know. When I came in, more than 25% of the people in this city were not paying their water bill, including some of the wealthiest neighborhoods in town. The average Detroiter who was paying their bill was paying $150 a year for those who weren't, and it was about to go to $300 a year, because the way this works is it's a fee system. Nobody from Farmington pays Detroit water bills. If a Detroiter doesn't pay, it goes on the bills of all the other Detroiters. And so we had to try to do two things. Those truly in need, I believe, needed help. And there was almost no money at all, $200,000. We went out and got a source of about $2 million a year to assist folks. We came up with a fund. A lot of people ran up bills because they had running pipes. We put up to $1,000 to fix the leaky pipes, and we are right now lobbying to go to $4 million a year in support, and we're trying to get the support of Oakland and Macomb County, and I think we'll do it at the Great Lakes Water Authority. If there is somebody today, and we're going to disagree with this, but I totally admire what you have done for those families that you have helped, and I hope there are more ways that we can work together. But Gary Brown, where's Gary? Gary, why don't you talk about what programs are available and what we're continuing to work on?
And first I want to thank Hydrate Detroit, because they do bring people to our front door, and we try to help each and every one of them. I think DWSD has the most compassionate, robust, comprehensive water assistance program in America. 94% of our customers are paying their bills on time and are not at risk of shutoff. Now, that 6% is a large number, but I'm happy to say that we have the assistance available for the 6% if we can get them to come in and ask for the assistance. We have 4 people downstairs right now waiting for anyone that may need the assistance. We have $1.3 million in the bank to provide the assistance. The bottom line is this: if you can pay, you have to pay, because if you don't, it gets passed on to the people that can least afford to pay. And if you need assistance, we have it available. You just need to ask for the help, and we can provide that assistance.
But let me just challenge that, because even though there's assistance out there, it isn't enough. You can give $1,200 to a family, and their water still gets shut off from the bill being so high. Wayne Metro does not restore water service in the city of Detroit. They do not restore water service. They do not cut the water back on. We do. And what we do is, when we cut the water back on, we add protections around those accounts. This is happening to elderly people, to people with disabilities, medical conditions, people coming out the hospital and they water being shut off and they have no money. And it's not about people not wanting to pay. It's the ability to pay. People don't have the $1,000 or more, and they sitting in houses with scumlords like Michael Kelly that cannot afford these bills that were passed down to them before they signed the agreement. Now, here's my solutions. My solution is to stop shutting off the water, period. That's the first thing. The second thing, we need to revise the 10-30-50 plan, and we need to implement that water amnesty to flip it to give 50 to 70% off arrearages on residents that have been burdened with water bills. And I know you know, Mr. Brown, people come to you all the time and they say they're trying to get back on track, they're trying to get back at a zero balance, they've been wanting help, and Wayne Metro doesn't go far enough, Wade doesn't go far enough. Hydrate Detroit has been the only organization, along with We the People of Detroit and other water organizations, that have come to the city of Detroit, that come to the officials, come to Mayor Michael Duggan, and you all have not agreed to meet with us. You all have not done what you're supposed to do. All I ask, Mr. Mayor, is to stop shutting off the damn water.
Okay, and so, Mr. Williams, I know you and I will probably never fully agree, and I do believe that if we declare no water shutoffs, we'll be back into people paying $200 or $300 a year. However, I think you've got good points on the 10-30-50. I will meet. I think you've got a legitimate issue there. And I will be willing to meet with you and sit and work. If you think you're going to convince me. Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm telling you now, we can get somebody to schedule an appointment before you leave. And I'm willing to listen. And I know you've got a position that's at one absolute, but I'm telling you, what you have contributed to this community is enormously valuable. It demands our respect. It demands us sitting and listening to you, even if we don't agree. And so,
you can be a leader right now, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor. You can turn this around. You can stop today. You can stop the water shutoffs today.
Right.
You can stop it tomorrow. You can stop Monday morning. You can have a press conference and say that we're ending the water shutoffs.
Yeah.
We're going to give everyone a 50% arrearage cut.
yeah.
And that will work. You may not get the revenue, the water department may not get the revenue that to satisfy that bond requirement, but it'll at least have the money. And I don't know what else you're going to do with this $250 million bond. You're not getting any of my money.
So what I would say is this. I'm prepared to sit with you. I believe if we announce the water shutoff tomorrow, we just end up rolling bills onto everybody else. And so I understand, but we aren't going to agree on that. If your only reason for meeting is if I don't agree to a water shutoff, there's no point in meeting, I guess there's no point in meeting. I think you have a number of good issues on things like the 10-30-50. I'm willing to sit down and try to find a middle ground and sit and talk respectfully if that's what you want to do. If your position is, unless I agree to a shutoff, you don't want to talk to me, then I guess we're in a different situation. All right. Well, I'm just telling you, I'm prepared to sit and talk in a respectful way. Yes.
My name is Ramon Jackson. I'm coming from District 7. I want to speak to the black folks in this room. Do y'all know what gentrification means for black people? That term is loosely thrown around, but this is what gentrification means for us. It means the destruction of our voting power. Anytime you take our population that's majority and you split us up and you spread us thin, we lose our voting power. That is happening here in Detroit. We all see that. Nobody can sit here and deny that that is happening. Now, who is responsible? This man right here is responsible for it, because gentrification cannot transpire without your local municipality. They pass permits, they raise water rates, they control licensing and everything to build. It's easy as just, if you come in and you developing, you're not developing here if your development do not coincide with our median income.
You have a question?
Huh?
You have a question?
I have a statement for the people. Do I have to make a question? I mean, you ain't cutting nobody else off. Let me
Okay,
finish.
so I want to be reasonable, and we're going to disagree on this, but do you have anything you'd like me to respond to, if you just made up your mind?
I'm talking, I'm
Okay.
making my
All right, well,
comment to the
this is an opportunity to ask a mayor a question at a mayor's meeting, and so,
honestly, my questions for you, you have already been totally dishonest with the people. I'm
Okay.
just here to abreast
Okay.
the people to your dishonesty.
Okay.
Right here,
All right.
I see, with a budget, he say he don't have no money. We give him $824 million, 577 come to him, 288 come to him, 195 come to him. He lied about no government assistance. He used our block grant money to help with the Chrysler
All right,
deal.
we're gonna
Those are
give-
federal funding.
we're going to give
That's federal
everybody
funding.
a chance. I appreciate that you
should
disagree.
go, man. You dishonest to
Okay.
our people. We should
You
not
know,
be giving him
the great
no more
thing
money. You have
about-
already showed
The great
that
thing
he
about
cannot
America
be trusted
is everybody
in
gets a
everything
vote,
that he did.
and you have your position, but, okay. Go ahead.
Hi there, Mayor. Welcome to District 3. We are sometimes feeling like the forgotten district. In spite of your slideshow, we live in the neighborhoods, as Vanessa Peak stated earlier. We are distressed, but we are fighters, as you've witnessed here today, but we're mostly polite people. So we thank you for coming, and we want to extend our courtesy for the right to speak publicly. And so we are pleased that the charter gives us that opportunity and that you're here. So we know one thing, that nobody can work alone and succeed. So we have witnessed good team members within the administration, and many are in the room today. But specifically, we are proud of our Don, our Department of Neighborhoods at Farwell Field. I see Mr. Ernest Johnson here. I see Kiana Sessoms here and their staff. They have been most approachable and helpful to us on most everyday problems. And they have also extended themselves to work with us on trying to solve some of our problems. So thank you for putting them in position and for being responsible to us.
I'm glad now you have something you're not happy with me about.
Well, you know how
Okay,
it
go ahead.
goes.
I do. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we could, the gentleman on my right said, you have your one question, and I nodded my head yes. So I'm heading into the question
Go
now.
ahead. All right.
Many times we see things on council agenda that are actually traceable to your office.
Okay.
And one of those is the city airport study. I think it was contracted out at over $1 million, maybe
Right.
more.
Right.
I don't have the exact figure in my head.
Right.
But at that number, it seems like the people who are greatly impacted by the closing of 6 Mile and the whole uncertainty about what's going to happen in the future about the airport. So, number one, do I have to file a Freedom of Information Act to get a copy of that study results?
No,
or is it possible?
but it hasn't even started, but no, you will probably know the study results before I do.
Well,
but
you
go
know
ahead.
how rumors are. They're
Okay.
saying that you're going to, well, I think I've heard you say it on TV. You're going to close the east-west runway. The question is the rumor true that you're going to try and relocate it at 6 Mile and between Connor and Van Dyke?
So let me just tell you the truth about what's happening. So City Airport has declined for a long time. It has a very small number of activities, and it only has very few people for 180 acres. When you try to rebuild a city airport, the FAA controls the money. The FAA could potentially put tens of millions of dollars into that airport. Now, we're never going to get commercial flights. Southwest isn't coming back, but we could get more package handling, which good jobs. We could get the Davis Aerospace School, which is there in a limited way right now as part of the day, more active. We could get training for engineers to repair. There's a lot of things we could do. And so I sat down with FAA officials, and I said, here's what I see. And the east-west runway is almost never used, and at most airports they're a little concerned because you get a private pilot practicing touch and goes coming across the same way as somebody who's landing. So having that cross runway is not something that people are all that comfortable with. And what we talked about is you can't get from east to west on McNichols. Would the FAA pay to build a tunnel and take McNichols down underneath and come up so that you could connect the two sides again? And they're open to that conversation. They'll never let us reopen it because they need a cushion of safety at that end. But I'm pitching connecting it back. I'm pitching making significant investment. And the federal law requires this full study to be done before we can apply to any federal money. And so the study is going to involve public comment. It will then be submitted to the FAA. Only after the FAA approves it could we unlock potentially tens of millions of dollars for that airport. So we're trying to do the study. You may not agree with me on the crosswind runway, but by and large, I think the other things that you want is what we're trying to push.
For the record, we were part of the opposition group that way back when Coleman A. Young was mayor. We did our homework then and saw that financially the budget did not bear out the prediction that Southwest Airlines commercial flights should come in. But the picture is bigger than that because the very neighborhoods that we live in are greatly impacted in terms of noise, air pollution, and the closing of 6 Mile, which was promised to be a 3 to 5 year closure, is now turned out to be like a lifetime closure. And all our neighborhoods are suffering from truck traffic in residential neighborhoods that should not have it. So part of what we've been asking time and time again is to sit down with planning department to work out buffered zones and proper truck routes. And the other big problem is the railroad. If you've ever been stopped by a train at Randazzo's, that same train is stopping you at Davison and Vanda.
Right, I know.
So these are not easily solved problems, but the other major problem, and I'm putting it on the table for the planning department, is that way back when we were planning the Conner Creek Greenway, the issue of the Conrail yard at State Fair and Conner and Outer Drive, right where the wellness center is, that railroad yard is sending out a huge number of diesel trucks every day that are so heavy, and that intersection at Conner and Outer Drive is terribly impacted, as are those neighborhoods getting the truck traffic.
Okay, so I want to give everybody a chance here. So let me say this to you. I am on your side on reopening McNichols. The FAA will not legally let us reopen it because of FAA requirements on safety at the end of the runway. The only way McNichols gets reopened is if somebody pays for an expensive tunnel to go under that cushion area. I think we can get that done. It's one of the things I'm trying to do. So you might be happy with me on one thing. But I also want to make sure that somebody is on top of this issue relative to the truck traffic coming from the Conrail yard. Ernest, have we got somebody from planning on this? Okay, we're going to address this because this is the first time I'm hearing this, and I don't want to give you an answer without being knowledgeable. Oh, okay, hang on. Arthur Jemison is knowledgeable. That's good. All right, so our planning director, Pat, is going to give you an answer here. Or no, he's just going to talk to you. Okay, all right, go ahead. Yes.
My name is Jonathan Young, and I'm a part of District 3. I live on the end of Outer Drive and Ryan. I've purchased 12 homes, some of them through land banks, some through private owners. For myself, for my business that I have, and for a nonprofit that I started with my own funds. My problem is, with some of the properties, I'm having issues with vandals. And when I say vandals, I'm literally watching people tear my houses down in the city, and I can't get any help. I have several people that are on my contact roster that I've met from other meetings that I've attended. They have not gotten back to me. And it's like I'm paying for all of these things out of my own pocket, not only just to help myself, but I'm doing things to help people who've lost things to catastrophes and don't have insurance so they can offer a place to stay. I actually have a business card. If anybody wants one, I'll give it to them. My problem is I can't get any help from the police or anything. I'm paying all this money in taxes to catch up on these properties. As said, I'm securing them. Several of them I've actually finished, and I have one on the west side on Avon that'll be finished within the next couple of weeks that I got through Land Bank.
We got to find a way to support you because we want you to keep doing what you're doing. It sounds like you're crossing multiple precincts.
Yes, I have properties in District 7.
So I need to find a way to get you a neighborhood police officer's cell phone number in each precinct so there can be an immediate response no matter where you are, because it's got to be hard to navigate all those precincts.
It's very hard. I'm not getting anywhere, and I'm literally at the point
Commander
where I'm ready to
Medicine, would you
leave
sit
the
down?
city.
Okay, this young man, we want him to keep taking vacant houses and fixing them up, and he's not going to be able to afford to do it if they're stealing the furnaces on him halfway
They're not
through.
even just stealing the furnace. Someone actually went to one of my properties and stole the rails down that hold up the roof. The property literally is fell down and it's just laying in the front of the yard. And it's like, I'm not asking anybody to give me money. I can support myself, but I can't try to help a situation or do anything else when it's constantly being taken from me and I'm being looked at like, well, what can we do about
What's your company called?
A place to stay and a place to stay too.
Okay, so I want us to find a way to support a place to stay where this business owner has telephone numbers promptly, and then I want to make sure you go right to Ernest or somebody from that team, so they'll get directly to me if you feel that DPD is not doing what you want. But let's see if we can't prove to you that we can support your investment. Okay? Yes.
How you doing? How you doing, Mr. Mayor?
Good.
I'm over in the FCA. Excuse my voice, I'm hoarse. FCA, and I went to all the meetings that they had when they was making the deals for over there. I'm in the Impact. I'm on the Impact
What street are you on?
Benetal.
Oh, I've been on your street a lot of times. All right.
One side of the street, they doing the alleys and cleaning up everything. On the other side of the street, they giving us nothing, but they say $15,000 to insulate our home. Them homes is over 60 years old. $15,000. They came out and talked to me. I'm in a two-family flat. They still want a dwelling. They still want to give me $15,000 to fix up a two-family flat dwelling, and the other folks is getting $15,000 for one. And I don't think it's fair. I don't think they're cleaning up our alleys on our side. You know, we still in the Impact area.
Is Letty here somewhere?
They should have cleaned up
Letty,
both sides of the street. I don't know why they didn't clean. Why we getting the short end of the stick where they not cleaning
All right,
up?
we've got your district manager from District 4, and I know she'll know the answer. Go ahead.
For the small home repair grants? Actually, I was going to grab Kai because for the $15,000 for two-family home, was it for each? So for each address.
So it sounds like what they're doing is what's in the contract, but you're saying it's not really fair.
It's not insulating our home. They put some doors on my house and some a window upstairs and doing some electrical work. Now, when I told them the stuff I needed, it went to about $23,000. They told me I had to come out my pocket to do that, and I don't think that's fair because, like I said, they should have. What they should have did is they should have offered everybody over there to buy them out and move us somewhere else because they turned an industrial area and taken over, you know, where we live at. It's just like they chasing us out where we live at. You know what I'm saying? And one more thing, they have not started working on our homes when Chrysler is giving fumes from trucks and everything that's coming up in our home, and we inhaling all that stuff, which is not fair. By the time they start working on our homes, we haven't been caught something, cancer or anything, because we inhaling. Trucks was coming down our street. I had to drive up on the sites and tell them these big rig trucks don't need to come down our blocks when they told us that they wasn't going to come. Okay. They put signs up.
We put speed humps on Beneteau.
They still come down there. They don't care about
You're telling me they're coming down the street with the speed humps?
I didn't call. I didn't talk to my Lydia know me.
We had complaints about the trucks on Beneteau?
Dennis Perkins know me. I didn't talk to everybody. They know me. I didn't call them so much. They say.
What's that? Okay, so Letty will follow up with you, and I know you and I disagree from the beginning, but FCA didn't move anybody out. We took the position we weren't moving people out. And so
but they're not insulating our homes.
Okay,
like
and so we're going to see if there's anything we can do. It sounds like they're following the contract. We're going to see if there's anything that we can do because you're in a different situation.
Well, why was it a contract when Southwest is getting their places insulated with filters when they putting a paint factory over there where we live at, and it's not fair. I live where BAFS, who I grew up over there, and the fumes that come from these places used to chase us out of our house at night.
Okay.
Who-
All right.
who's
So
gonna-
in Southwest, they're building a bridge that's going to have exit ramps over people's backyards. And the Canadians agreed to a standard there. In your case, you're going to be backing up to a parking lot where there's going to be very little activity. It's a different standard. You may not agree with me, but it's a different standard. However, I'm going to look into whether we can do something about the 2-unit side. I think you got a legitimate point there, and I'll see if I can do something about that. All right? Yes.
Yes, hello, I have a comment and then a question.
What's your name and where do you live?
Joanne, and I live not too far from here. I'm not District 3, but I'm District 5.
Okay.
But I came to talk to the District 3 residents because I strongly urge you to vote no on the demo bond proposal. And I'll tell you why for a number of reasons. There was a 2-family brick flat with no fire damage that got bulldozed on my block, and I know someone who asked the city to save it, and they didn't let them do it. And then after that, after it got bulldozed, then the land bank was going to sell it through a realtor for $13,800, and you had to give them proof of funds and a development plan. I saw a number of other houses that went down that didn't have fire damage, and I sure saw a lot of torch jobs in my neighborhood too. So I'm concerned about that. I don't see the big rush because I understand there's $30 million a year that would go for demolitions anyway. So what I would suggest is to go into the neighborhoods and identify where there are houses that people are really, really concerned about. Because as you know, I think a lot of you live in an area where they were not bulldozing, even though there were problems. So if we didn't care about you for 4 years, then why is there a rush now? The other reason is that I talked to an Uber driver who told me he worked for one of these firms that's under federal investigation. He said he couldn't say too much, but he's led me to believe there are dirty holes all over the city. And
Okay,
so
that's nonsense. Let's stay somewhere based on fact.
well, hey, that was
So
the
an
Uber driver who
heard-
worked for the company.
Okay, well, that's nonsense. So,
Okay, well,
but let's
I've-
stay somewhere on fact. Go ahead. You were doing okay up until then.
All right, well, then let's talk about what I've seen in my neighbor's side lots. It doesn't look like 8 inches of good topsoil to me.
So if you have an address that you do not think was properly done, give Brian Farkas that address tonight. We will get an inspector out there tomorrow. Because we do not know, we diligently follow up any single complaint about dirt. So you've got an address, give Brian the address, we'll get an inspector out, and if they did it wrong, we'll make them tear it out and fix it.
Okay, well, the other concerns, I'm not quite done, I'll finish this point and then get to the
Okay.
question. My other concerns were that there may be a lot of lead poisoning that was caused by the demolitions, because my understanding is Dr. Abdul Saeed, your former health director here, was concerned about the safety of the demos, and that a study was commissioned, and there were elevated blood lead levels found in 5 zip codes where they were bulldozing away. I live in one of them.
Is Denise
And
Fair here, our health director?
Then after that...
Okay. So hang on, let me stop. A far more exhaustive study's been done in the last 2 years. It's been concluded by the health department, and it's going to be a surprise to people. People are healthier in neighborhoods where there aren't burned out abandoned houses, and so that was proven to be not true. And I don't know if Denise Fair, our health director, is here, but we'll be glad to share with you the comprehensive study that was done.
Okay, well, before I get to my question, at that last point, I was at land bank board meetings, and they halted bulldozing in those 5 zip codes
Right.
during summer and
Right.
hot months, so...
Right, they did.
So-
They won't be doing that next year because they have a far more comprehensive thing.
Okay, so
But
my
while we thought there
question-
was any chance, we held off until we had a thorough study, and now we're confident. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So my question is this, and so once houses get bulldozed, right, then who gets to buy the land? And so here's my question. The Detroit City webpage, until very recently, mentioned, if you go to a part where it says frequently asked questions, who makes the decisions about the dispositions or the sales of land? In other words, who gets to buy it? And it said that it's made by the city's real estate committee. Now, up until that's what the website said for...
That's commercial property, that's not residential property.
Not true.
Okay, I'm
You
just
have the
telling you how it
land
works.
bank board lady here who can tell you, and so, but, so what I would,
Right.
well, no, because right now, the land bank was selling
Okay,
property
so what's the
in
question?
ways- if I can just finish.
Okay.
The land bank was selling property in many ways that you were not telling the general public for at least 4 years. And because I pressed Mary Sheffield, now when you go under make a purchase, you have to scroll down to other projects, and then you'll find the property they're selling through realtors. So back to the disposition question, and that was only after I pressed
Okay,
people.
again,
So they weren't.
you are confusing commercial property done through the realtors and residential property done from the land bank, but we don't need to do that here. Go ahead.
Well, that's
All right, go
not
ahead.
true,
So
because
what's
you
your-
can
what's your
go
question?
see
All right,
that
we got lots of people with questions.
Okay,
What's
the
your question?
question is then who is making decisions about,
this-
who's making the decisions about the properties under 9? Because from what I see at the land bank board meetings is you've got two people who I understand
So
don't
let me answer your question, because you're asking a very good question. Here's the first rule. If you own the property next door, you can buy the lot next to you, and if there's one next to that, for $100 each. The people who own the property next door get first preference. What we won't do is sell stray vacant lots to speculators, okay? I get enough trouble with Michael Kelly trying to push him out. I don't want him coming in and buying more property. So we won't save, we didn't forgive them. We bought property to build a 5,000 employee Chrysler plant, is what we did. So you may disagree with that. You may have wanted the 5,000 jobs to go to Illinois. I didn't choose who owned the property. I had to deal with who was there. In any event, here's what we're doing. Arthur Jemison, our planning director, is leading a team, and the block clubs and neighborhood associations are now sitting with us and planning what to do with that land. We just had an event in Warrendale 2 weekends ago. They got about 30 vacant lots together, created an absolutely beautiful park for the children and the like. We've got people who are creating stretches of gardens. And so what we are going to do with this vacant land is sit with the neighborhood and block club associations and pursue your vision for your area. And that's where we're going to go as we move into these other areas. Go ahead. Yes. All right, we're going to give some other people a turn. Yes, it is true.
That doesn't happen.
Yes,
Okay.
Evaded my question. So
I
you
didn't
answered-
invade. I just told you what we're going to do as our policy. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
I'd just like to ask you, have you issued, since you became mayor, any Section 108 loans through HUD?
Arthur would know that. Where's Arthur?
You don't know.
Yeah, and so here's the thing about it. I don't speak on something that I'm not confident on what I'm doing, but Arthur Jemison, who runs the program, I'm confident will know. Arthur, go ahead.
So we have not issued any new or sought authorization of any new 108 notes. There are existing 108 dollars that have been borrowed. A small number of them have not been deployed, but we've been working on settlements with all the non-performing 108 loans so that we can get money back into the city.
All right, so I guess the answer is no. Go ahead.
Okay. I went down to the Detroit Housing Revitalization. A lot of the budget money from the general fund, as well as grant money, CDBG grants, and other finances and funds go through the Detroit Housing and Revitalization.
Right, that's
I tried to
Mr.
speak-
Jemison runs that,
Okay,
yes.
he runs it?
Yes.
Okay, I tried to set up an appointment with Donald Rencher.
Okay,
He never got back to me.
Okay,
I
well,
also spoke.
You've got Donald Rencher's boss right here, and he's going to set up an appointment
Okay.
right now.
Okay. Also, I went down, I'd like to know about Southwest Detroit, 4217
Okay.
zip code. Because, you took a tremendous burden on your shoulder and responsibility when you became mayor.
Yeah, I'm aware.
So the statistics that you put up, they look good. I'd like to ask you, the information that I had, approximately 70% of the jobs of people who work in Detroit, they don't live in Detroit, they live outside.
Yeah.
And then there's 60% of people who live in Detroit that have jobs. They have to travel out to the suburbs.
Not quite those, but
to
your
work.
point is right. Most Detroiters
Okay.
go to work in the suburbs, and more suburbanites go to work in Detroit, which is why I'm working so hard on landing things like auto plants and the like, so we create opportunities
Okay.
right here. But you're right. What you're saying is true.
Okay, so why were you against with the pollution in places like 48217 zip code where I grew up at, one of the most polluted areas in the state. We're issuing bond money. And municipal bonds have already been issued, my understanding, in 2018, and they didn't go to the people for a vote.
Okay.
It was just passed through the city council. But what are you doing for people who are being...
So let's start with that. As you might remember, 3 years ago, Marathon went for a permit to increase their emissions at that plant, and the state of Michigan appeared to be heading down that road. I took that issue on very strongly and made clear to Marathon and the state that if they raised the emissions, we were going to take them to court. I worked with Dr. El Sayed on that, and we got them to change the plan and cut the emissions. The other thing that we did is we got the Kemeny Rec Center rebuilt, which has been a center of that community for a long time, and the baseball and soccer fields and the like are there. But we can go, I guarantee you, no matter where I go in this city, there are folks who believe we haven't done enough there, and I would agree with you, we haven't done enough in 48217. One of the biggest beneficiaries outside of District 3 on the demo bond issue is 48217. There's a whole lot of work that will get done down there to improve that area if this bond issue gets done.
Okay. The issuance of the $250 million municipal bond, which is actually going to be more when it's over with, I think that if any bond money is issued, that the taxpayer of Detroit will be responsible to pay back.
Right.
Money should be issued to clear up these pollution issues, especially in light of the scathing report by the Auditor General about landfills being filled with contaminated dirt and so forth.
The Auditor General report does not say that. There is no line in that report suggests there's any contaminated site. That's just not true.
Okay, well, I think it is. But anyway, I'm not going to stand and try to debate
everybody
with
can
you.
read it. There's not a word in there about a contaminated site in the city.
Well, I think it is. That's what I read. But anyway, if you're going to propose municipal bonds to be put forward, why weren't the other two proposed to go to the ballot? And also,
it had to do with whether it's a general commitment, a general bond obligation, which commits the taxpayers, or whether you take a specific revenue stream. So this is a general bond obligation, which by law only the voters of the city can decide, and we're hoping the voters get a chance. And you may vote no, but I think you should have a chance to vote.
And were you or were you not against Proposal A?
Which proposal?
That was a community benefit proposal that was put on the ballot.
No, I was strongly for Proposal B, and we now have the only community benefits ordinance in America.
Well,
so you may disagree with me. Go ahead. Next question.
I have a couple statements. Can I hold it? A couple things, but about the bonds, the thing I object to is that it's going to be put supposedly, unless it's stopped, on the presidential primary.
Please, can we have one
now,
conversation?
Everybody who knows when the presidential primary, please raise your hand. And everybody who knows, so that's about, I don't know, 1/20th maybe, who knows who they want to vote for, because maybe people won't have decided who they want to vote for, so they won't bother to go. But I think it's undemocratic to put something like this. It should go on the presidential election. And the same thing happened with the charter. We had more people that didn't vote. 34,000 went to the polls, but they didn't vote on R because they didn't know it was going to be on there. And we need information. Now, the other thing is I'd like to see us have drainage developed instead of trying to attract all these developers, because, I mean, for the long-term future of Detroit, if we can figure out maybe how to make a recreational waterway, something that they have more in Toronto, and they did a third of a city at a time and separated the sewage out of the water. So, and we need carbon filtration, infrared, and ozonation instead of chlorine, which is a cancerous thing, and it goes into chlorine compounds. And there's maybe, I'd like to see us build a whole new water system with a dedicated water line that would actually, we could afford to maybe to filter that to make the best water we can, and start bringing a separate water line just for drinking and everybody's house. But as far as like this thing about developers, what I came up with an idea. This neighborhood opportunity center zones that they have, well, why not give that to anybody? I mean, anybody in Detroit. Let's have equal opportunity. If you develop your house, you ought to be able to go down and get a tax break on it, if that's what they want, instead of just giving it to the developers. But
all right, so let me see if I can pick off answer your questions. Go ahead.
More information, and we should be putting in our own pipes when we do roads. We ought to start planning the separation of the sewer, put pipes in for our own internet so we can have internet to everybody. So let's do something to improve, instead of just the same old thing. And I'll tell you about the demolition.
Okay, I want to make sure everybody gets a chance
After you got
here.
elected, I noticed there were a whole bunch of houses that had the porches laying on the ground or sagging, where somebody went and put a rope around it probably and drove their truck or their SUV and pulled the porch down by pulling the post out. And then it looks like it needs to be demolished because it looks terrible.
All right.
But
All right. I want to make sure we get to everybody here.
Build it from the ground up, and that's what,
right.
if you want to bring new people in and keep the points
So-
we have, we've got to keep
so-
the
so-
houses and
all
not
right.
demolish
All right.
them.
Okay, we're going to move. I'm sorry, but we have to give everybody a chance. Come on. Look.
The demolition of good houses.
Okay.
And they used to
We don't-
tell me, my friends, well, they tear the best ones down
Okay.
first. 'cause
So
that's
please,
they want
please
the
be
land, they wanna make
respectful
money.
to your fellow citizens who are waiting their turn. Yes, go ahead.
Excuse me. Excuse me. No. There is a excuse me, ma'am. No. Listen. This is a charter meeting, but hold it. I stated a rule at the beginning. This is the house of the Lord. You're going to respect it. This is not a place, okay? We agreed. Watch this. We all agreed to respect one another. No, we agreed, sir. Sir. I will stop this whole meeting in a minute, and all the devils can go. But listen, one minute. Again, sir, ma'am. That's the problem. We all can talk, but we can't talk at the same time. This particular time, I believe it calls for questions. Now let us, ma'am, please. There's a lot of people that have questions. The mayor is asking to be able to hear them. So I'm going to give him the mic back, but if we have any more disruption from anyone, no, I'm not going to shut it down. I'm going to ask that you leave. I'm not going to shut it down. You can't shut anything down in this house. Not this house. You can't shut anything down. Okay? I will put the devil out. Officer, where are you? I'll start with the first one right there. I just did. Well, have a good evening, sir. And all those that agree with him and you're that way, you can go now. What kind of pastor am I? I'll tell you what kind I am. Oh, okay. Amen. All right. Okay. All right, Mayor.
So this is something that we got to think about as a community. We got strong feelings. We can disagree with each other. Detroiters are passionate. But when you get to the point that you are disrespecting a minister in his church, we have hit, I just got to say that I think for most people, that's not how we are as Detroiters. So there's a lot of people here who have had very good criticisms of me, and I'm very respectful of it, and they're not going to agree with me. But you don't disrespect a minister in his own church. Whose turn is it? All right. What? Okay, go ahead. Okay. All right, so we have another one to escort out. Let's go ahead. You got to put her out, too. Okay, whose turn was it? I lost track. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Tell me your name and where you live.
East Side Drive in Mound, Julius DeBar-Lapin. Trying to keep this very brief. Professional development for individuals who were entrepreneurs before the bankruptcy, had very successful businesses, professionals that worked in these large corporations, GM, Ford, Chrysler, hospitals. There's been a political change in Detroit relative to, there's a lot of jobs for low-level, low-skill people, a lot of emphasis on filling those jobs. But there hasn't been a lot of equal emphasis, at least not publicly, on identifying and developing professionals.
I agree with you.
Specifically, I had the opportunity to work at Chrysler headquarters when they were in Detroit, Ford Motor Company Market Division. Had the opportunity to work for a CPA firm, African-American owned, in the city of Detroit that did audits. Had an opportunity to run a successful business for over 30 years. My principal customers were the city of Detroit. Think about that prior bankruptcy. Detroit Public Schools, prior bankruptcy. Wayne County, prior bankruptcy. Those are the type of businesses.
You're making me nervous. I was going to offer to hire you back, but you sound like you're out of roll there as far as
Yes,
those
but my
bankruptcies.
point is this, right? My point is this. When you bring back those opportunities with this bond initiative, you need to look at things beyond residencies of headquarters of these companies coming from outside the city, relocating to the city. When you bring these corporations in, you need to look at opportunities where senior level managers, middle level managers, entry level professional jobs are equally as important as starter entry level jobs in terms of the production floor. We have a historical legacy coming from the South, picking cotton, working in those environments where we're sort of the backbone of the many. But I think one thing was great about Detroit in the 70s and the 80s was there were a lot of people, the officers I see here now,
What do
opportunity.
you do now?
I do volunteer work right now.
What were you doing before?
Manufacturing.
I couldn't agree with you more. And so I have a kitchen cabinet essentially of about 20 or 25 African-American business owners and entrepreneurs. And their number one issue they're raising with me is exactly what you're saying. And I'm going to be making a personal commitment to be proactive in conversations for exactly that thing, and I'd love a chance to sit and talk with you about it, because I agree with you. It's a really important issue in this city, and I don't hear it articulated nearly often enough, but you're right.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor.
It's all right. It's okay, guys. If she's not disrupted, just leave her. It's okay. Thanks. Go ahead. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Frank Aldrich, and I've lived in District 3 for over 30 years. I'm also a block club president. And quite frankly, I just have a comment that I want to make, no question, and it kind of speaks in favor of extending that bond. And I'll tell you why. It's not so much about property values, the impact it could have. It's the eyesore, the blight and all that. Also being a member of a radio patrol. And I joined that simply because I wanted to be
Which
out
radio patrol are you part of?
The CRC.
Oh, thank you.
I want to make sure that these kids get to school safely.
Right.
They're standing at bus stops, they're walking. I'm watching little girls walk to school against some properties where bad things can happen. And I find that very unsettling. So aside from all this other stuff, I'm looking at the risk factors as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration among those who will be voting on this if it gets on the ballot, because that's a really, really critical thing to take into account, because we don't want to see our children get hurt. And that's all I have to say.
Well, and you think about this, and the chief and I are haunted by this, but 3 women killed in abandoned houses. If we had cleaned out the blight, would those women be alive? These are questions, but we've had a lot of crimes occur in these abandoned houses. We've had people who've had the abandoned house next door catch fire and burn out their house, and they don't have insurance. I mean, there's some real tragedies that we have to address. Yes, sir.
We're in Detroit. What up, though? I mean, come on now. My name is Ray Winans. I'll be moving back to the city next month. But real quick, can I get my guys from D-Line to stand up real quick? All right. So all them young men back there. The reason why I say this is because leadership is the hardest ship to navigate. So I appreciate your leadership, first and foremost. Second of all, I wanted to make a comment to my brother, Mr. Jackson. I know for a fact most of us watch the Weather Channel, right? We want to know if the snow coming or not. We see the snow coming, we prepare for it, right? So if he's saying gentrification and you feel like it's coming, then the responsibility that we teaching these young men is buy up your neighborhoods, right? Buy them up. So we can't blame nobody for the things that we got control over. Second of all, my question ain't for you, Mr. Mayor, but it's for the community. It's about 1,000 of us, literally, young people, they ready to work. What can we do to support y'all? That's the question. So Cal, raise your hand. As we move this needle forward in the city, we want to help. And we got our young people that's ready to help because they identify they are not the problem, but they the solution. And we want to help our seniors and our voters, all right?
Okay. Hi.
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Hey.
Katrina LaFleur. I have the opportunity to be in District 3. And two areas of concern. There are many major factories that are in the area that have huge lots of land. Right. We just had a major snowstorm. Right. So is there a way to contact them and make sure that their areas around their buildings are clean so that people will be able to walk along the streets?
Sidewalk in front of their places?
Yes.
So what do we do on that? Ron or is it Dave Bell? Who handles that if somebody's failing to clear their sidewalk? I can take care of that. Go ahead. Dave Bell is the head of our inspection department. He'll know the answer. Go ahead.
And then,
we'll let you answer the second question. Let Dave answer that one, and you can ask another one. Okay. We're not trying to.
All you have to do is give us the address, and we will go out and we will handle it. We'll ticket them if we have to. Okay?
Right. So Dave runs the inspection department. He'll get on that. Go ahead.
Thank you. We have a lot of wonderful youth that would like the experience of being leaders in their community. Right. We have the National League of Cities and Smart Cities and Michigan Municipal Cities. All of them have the opportunity to have a youth board, a youth council, with kids from our community serving and learning how to be servants. Is there a way to have a teen or youth council in place here? And is there a way for some of our youth to participate and go to those conferences?
And so that's a really good question. There are a number of youth councils in this city. In fact, we got a group in Southwest Detroit in the Cody Rouge area where it was actually the high school students who proposed to all of the adults in the neighborhood the design and neighborhood plan. And you'd be surprised, they gave the 16-year-old kids a lot of grief, just like I get. But you can see the leadership developing. So the question is, should I like what you're saying? Question is, should we be supporting the groups that are already there and elevate some of their individuals or create a new one? And that's a conversation we should have.
So is there a person that represents the youth department?
So where is Ricardo? Is Ricardo here tonight? I think he didn't come because I think you're the first person to ask a youth question. So let's get Ricardo Marble in touch with Ms. LaFleur tomorrow. But we do have a youth coordinator, and he'll probably show up the next time. All right, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Miriam Smith. I'm the president of East Davison Village. Yes. And I just would like to say Ms. Kenyana's session has been a force to reckon with. Really? She came in fighting and for District 3, and I appreciate that. We want to hear all the good things, and these type of meetings are very important because if you don't know anything, then you can't fix anything. So I would just like to say I appreciate you.
All right, well, hang on to Kayana. All right, yes.
Bob Carmack. You know me? Yeah.
Go ahead. You have a
My question is, there was condemnation done over at the Gordie Howe Bridge. Why couldn't it be in condemnation over at the Chrysler plant?
Because the government, state of Michigan, condemned the Gordie Howe Bridge because the law of this state says condemnation can only be used for a public purpose. And building a bridge is by law a public purpose. And taking property from one private person to give it to a private company like FCA is not a public purpose. And so the Supreme Court about 10 years ago reversed what Mayor Young did in the Poletown plant and said you cannot use condemnation for something other than public purpose. Go ahead. Yes.
Hi, my name is Diana Morris, and I'm with Magnified Block Association. We're just forming here in this area in District 3. We have a plan for a power park with wind turbines and also, not turbines, I really want the smaller cylinders.
I want to see your
Winds.
neighbors with the turbines. I'm not sure how it's
No,
going to go.
not the high
Okay, all
turbines,
right,
the
okay.
smaller ones. We
All right.
like a wind and solar power. It's should be located at 2700 East McNichols, where they're coming through with the Greenway. And we'd like to know.
Do you like the Greenway coming through there?
It's coming exactly on the location that I had planned for.
Good.
Big
I'm glad to hear we
gardens,
got it right. All right.
Big gardens,
Okay,
large
good.
garden, health and
okay.
fitness activities.
So could we put
that-
gardens next to it?
We have plenty of room.
All right.
It's almost 5 acres, including a playground, along with Miss Shirley Burgess' program, Button That, and then we have East Davison Village. Their plan is abutting that.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, I want you to know that we have a plan for a 6 mile all the way to Carpenter, from about here at where we are now at DeQuinder, all the way to just about Conant.
Good.
Avenue. And we'd like for you've seen parts of Mrs. Burgess, you've seen parts of East Davison Village, and mine is just
love
a
to see
smaller
it.
part. And we want you to know that we have a plan, and we want our plan worked.
So would you talk to Arthur Jemison on your
Yes,
way
I
out, who's our
sure
planning
will.
director? And I want Arthur and I to sit down and look at your plan.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. You,
Good
I wouldn't
evening
dare,
again.
Rico.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
holding the mic, right? And to Pastor Forsythe for allowing us to use his church. The Reverend McBride, we thank him for being the minister he is to put us all back in order. Because we kind of lost our mind for a minute and forgot where you were. I just want to say to you, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you coming out to the community. I just want to say some positive things that's going on in our neighborhood, because it seems to be a lot of complaints. But we need to start thanking God for what we do have. Now, what is happening in 3rd District is that I attended a meeting with other people at the Bel Air Theater. I want you to know that, Mr. Mayor, you know all of this, but the people may not know. His name is Matty Maroon, has purchased the whole Bel Air Center. Now, with us going to the meeting, we had the opportunity to share under the new zoning B3, the center will remain a center and not an industrial site. That's good news,
That
but
is
you
good
won't
news.
know that until you go to the meetings. I want to share with you about the culture of Detroit. Do you not know the speeding and the lawlessness, which is not the fault of the police because we don't have enough? When a gentleman stood up here and said about CB Patrol, we had a meeting here on October the 30th with 7 churches that volunteered that they're going to work with the police department and CB Patrol by going out of here, not on Sunday, but through the week. We have got people to learn to work together and not be so negative, but to work together with the mayor. Nobody is saying he's perfect. He's not God, but he's doing the very best he can. What we do is get out there and do what we can as a people. So stop all of the bickering and let's come together. This is what that lady said about the Greenway. That reservoir sitting out there. Joseph Compa closed Evans Center. You got Davidson School. You got Washington Careers that's going to open back up. So a lot of things you don't know. But so get involved in making things progress in 3rd District. I've lived here all my life. I'm going to be quiet. I've lived here over 70 years. Raised 3 sons. My sons are all alive. You hear me? So that's a blessing that they live in. So I'm proud to be a Detroiter, and I don't allow nobody to talk about it because I'll just tell you, leave. Because guess what? It's going to be a rush of people coming back in here because this neighborhood is going to be populated again.
Right.
Thank you, Mr.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead. Yes.
Hi, my name is Crystal Purefoy. I'm the Block Club president of Cary Street, well, Cary Cares Block Club.
Okay.
I talked to you in July about a tree. It was an issue about an abandoned house that the land bank owned at 2206 Cary Street. They did hire a contractor to cut the tree down.
Okay.
But when he went to go take the job, because because me and Kiana were communicating, Miss Sessions.
Right.
We were communicating back and forth about this tree. The man took the contract. They paid him half of the contract because he didn't have the proper equipment to cut this tree down. Now, I talked to you directly about this
How many
tree.
times am I going to have to talk about this tree? You're telling me the tree is still up?
It's still there.
Okay, that really pisses me off.
Yeah, and Kiana had, Miss Sessions has been contacting them through
Okay,
email.
why can't we get the tree down? Okay,
It's not her fault, it's everybody
it's
that she has been
somebody's fault.
contacting.
I'm going to find out whose fault it is before we're done. Where's Kiana? Why is the tree not down? So Saskia is going to get the tree down?
So there's going to be a contractor within 30 days to address the
Okay,
tree.
you're going to leave here with Saskia Thompson's cell phone number.
I talked to her before.
Okay.
Nothing has happened.
Okay.
Me and Miss Sessions has been dealing with this since day one.
Okay. You got me mad, and I'm going to stay mad until the damn tree's down because we promised you to get this
And
tree
the
down.
excuse is the person that they sent over there,
Okay.
his lift is not tall enough to get in
Okay.
the tree.
All right. So, Saskia, I really don't want to have another conversation about the tree. Okay. So, you and kind of, if it's delayed, will you come tell me yourself? Okay. I'm sorry. I have no excuse, but we're going to get it down.
I want to tell you about Miss Sessions. She is wonderful.
I know. She just needs
we
to be comfortable enough to come yell at me when something's not getting done. We'll get her there.
Kiana, please yell at him, please.
All right. So
here in District
most
3.
of the rest of my staff does. Kiana still do. Go ahead. All right. So I'm sorry, but Ms. Purifar, we're going to get on that. We're going to get that tree down, and then I'm going to come out and see it when it's down. All right. Go ahead.
How you doing, Mayor?
Good to see you,
good
man.
evening. I have a question. I'm out of the area of the 7-8 Kelly Grass, what they refer to as the red zone. We met many different occasions. I want to know, why do we have to wait to have the houses tore down?
Yeah. That's, I've spent a lot of time with you and the folks who live there, and it's a hard thing to say. And that somebody before was saying, why don't we hold the election in November and not in March? Well, then you're saying, everybody, okay, you're going to live next to those houses another 8 months. Or do we need to get them down now? And so all I'm telling you is, I'm working day and night to try to get council to put this on the ballot and give you a chance to vote. And we will get them down at the rate of $4,000, $5,000 a year. Just got to get the money. We got to get this thing through. So I hope you get a chance to vote on that, because if you do in March, we'll move fast. Okay? I know you've been patient. All right, other questions over here? Minister.
Yeah, not so much a question, Mayor, but following up on missionary and Board of Police Commissioner Birch, Detroit is going to be what we make it. He can only do so much. We have a duty and a responsibility to one another. Now, we all need to agree right here and right now that these God-forsaken, dirty, dangerous, open, abandoned houses and structures where dope is sold, where women are raped and murdered, our children are raped and murdered. They're used as launching pads for running out and assaulting the elderly. And the psychologically debilitating effect on an adult mind and a young mind to see decay every day, the subconscious devastation. So we owe it to ourselves. We need to call City Council. We got time. There's a hearing Monday, I believe, at 4 or 5 p.m. at 5 at Coleman A. Young, KMAC building. And then the vote is Tuesday, 10 a.m., I believe, in the KMAC building. But we all should agree, however, it's 250 million, 500 million, 100 million, whatever, that these houses need to come down. It is ungodly. Now, we passed this. We need to call City Council and tell them, you are the legislative branch. You can write whatever you want into it, into this ordinance, law, whatever you want to call it. You want some safeguards, you want some timetables, you want some accountabilities, write it into it, and then let's pass it. Because we have no other choice unless we're all going to line up together as one and tear down each one of these houses with no equipment, hand by hand. Those are our choices. We need to do it for our children. We need to do it for our women. We need to do it for the elderly. We need to do it for us, and we need to do it right here and right now.
All right. Okay, I think I might let the minister handle future meetings for me. So thank you all very much. We had a good debate. People heard both sides. I'm just interested in a reaction, just an honest read right now. Whether you'd like to see this go on the ballot or not. Who here would like to see it go on the ballot? Who here would not like to see it go on the ballot? Okay? So it gives us a sense of it. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday, and I hope you get a chance. Vote. Thank you.